So guys, we're starting from the shoulder line, which is the base of the paper. So from shoulder, I'm marking shoulder to bust line, shoulder to waistline, shoulder to under bust. Just take them accordingly, shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline. I will mark this line vertically and then rule them across. Welcome to Joanne's Fashion Academy. My name is Justice, and today we're going to be looking at how to draft a cup corset with deep front neckline, right? And I hope you stay true to the end of this illustration to see what it's going to look like, right? So from the waistline, I'm coming down by 6 inches. This is the length of the corset that I want, 6 inches from the waistline. You can as well make it shorter, but making it longer is going to make you uncomfortable. Okay, so that is what I have there. Now coming up to this upper part, I turned the camera the other way around so that I feel it's going to be seen more like this. Okay, so our basic neckline of 3 by 3 is what I'm drafting next, and our shoulder line divided by 2. Now the shoulder drop down is 1.5 inches, and I'm going to connect it from the neck point and roll like so. Okay, now for the neckline as well, I want to reduce it by half inch on both ends, the depth and the width. So instead of having 3 inches neckline, I'm having 3.5, 3.5, because this is going to have a yoke. And I don't want it to be too tight, neither do I want it to be very free. Now for the chest line, which is the armhole line, come up from the bust line by 1.5 inches to get this mark for the chest line, which is the armhole line, right? So on this armhole line, we're going to divide our bust by 4 and mark. We're also going to be marking our shoulder divide by 2 to get it on a straight line. So from the chest line, I'll go up by 3 inches and then go in by 0.75. This is the armhole curve, right? This is the armhole curve. So all you have to do now is to get your armhole curve, the armhole curve ruler, and then connect the dots that you've marked together as seen in the video, right? So this is what we have. Now we're also going to divide our bust by 4 and mark on the bust line, and then we'll connect the two of them together. So I'm going to connect the two lines together, right? Now on the hip line, I'm going to divide my hip by 4 and mark. Now it's possible to connect it to the bust line, but we're not going to be doing that first. We're going to mark our bust span, divide by 2, and we'll connect it on a straight line. Bust span is the same as nipple to nipple measurement. Mark it on the bust line and on the hip line on a straight line. Now working on the under bust, I'm going to be marking 1.75 on this side, 1.75 on this side, and half inch on the front side. Okay, so altogether we should be having 2.2 inches to tighten the bust of 38 inches. So I'll use my curve and connect it this way. You can decide to place it any way you want. You can decide to divide it into two and mark, but I choose to make one part wider. On the hip line, I'm going to mark the same thing, 1.75 on the left hand side and half an inch on the right hand side. So I'll connect it on a straight line this way. One thing about tightening is that once you understand it, you can actually do it, try out new things the way it pleases, and see how it's going to come out. I've done this and it is very beautiful. Okay, so I will shift whatever I have and continue my measurements on the under bust. so that will mark what I have. Remember, you're not snatching the under bust, you're only snatching the waistline. So there is no reduction on the under bust. Where we have the reduction is on the waistline, and the waistline is about 30 inches, and we're minusing 2 inches to make it 28. So we are working with 28 divided by 4, and that is what you mark. Okay, so I'll connect it from the under bust. Now if you notice, you can see the shape that it's giving. That is just okay. Once you hold it, that everything is going to align properly. The same process, we're doing the same thing on the hip line, and then we're going to connect from the waist to the hip using our curve, or placing our curve this way, so that the beauty comes out. You can see what we have already, right? It's looking beautiful. So now we are going to go over to the upper part to draft the over bust tightening. But before then, we mark our bust dart, which is the difference between the front and the back. So here I marked 1.2 inches. That is the difference that I have. I will go over divide the shoulder by 2 and connect it to the bust point on a straight line, like so. Then I'm going to determine the height of my cup, right? You're the one to determine how high you want your cup to be, but then we don't want it to be too high. So from the chest line, I went up by 2 inches. I went up by 2 inches from the chest line, and that is the height of the cup that I want. It's not going to cover up to look somehow, and it's not going to be revealing. So on the bust line, from the bust line I'll go up by 1 inch. Okay, and then on that line I'll go in by half an inch. This is the opening I'm going to have in front, of which I'm planning to use a net to hold it together because I don't want anything to reveal. So I'll connect it to the waistline. That is how deep I want the neckline to be. Okay, so once this is done, we are now going to tighten our upper bust for it to hold us properly. All right. Now from the midpoint of the shoulder, I'm going to cut open to the bust point. Cut open to the bust point so that we can close our bust dart. When we close this dart, it's going to transfer into the shoulder line, enabling us to tighten our upper bust. Okay, so I'll put this together, use my masking tape to also any kind of tape that you have, and hold it down, but make sure it's something that you can still open back. Okay, so I'll now measure the opening I have there, and what I have was about 1.9 inches. Okay, to do 50% tightening, I'm going to divide this measurement into 2 and extend it on the shoulder line. But this did not actually work because by the time it gets towards the bust point, the tightening will be quite small. Okay, so but I will try connecting it so you can see how much we are removing from this area. You can see how it is based on where we marked. The opening is not that much. So I'm going to be doing 100% tightening, which is taking up the entire opening and transferring it, marking it back on the shoulder line. Okay, so this is 100%. I'm now going to connect it from the shoulder line to the bust point. Very important. Okay, so this is what we have. Now this is the opening that we have to tighten our over bust corset. Is this an over bust corset or a cup corset? Whichever one you see, that's fine. So on the shoulder line, I will extend whatever it is that I have marked. I will extend it back, right? I'm going to extend it back and then close up the one that we've marked so that we can reschedule our armhole line. So this is me trying to measure the entire space and see what it's going to look like if it will tighten me properly. And I came to the conclusion that I have to reduce more, at least 0.25, so that it's going to tighten very well. So once this is done, I'm going to open the bust that we taped it down before. I'm going to open it so that once it will enable me to close the shoulder dart and do all the necessary things that we have to do. So now I'm going to slash open the bust dart area from the midpoint, and you can see that it's helping me to close over the parts that were marked, right? The part that we're taking away our dart from the shoulder line. So I will overlap that part this way. And now you can see that the shoulder has become small. But because I extended whatever mark I have outside the shoulder line, we're going to draw out our new shoulder line from where I marked. You can see the way I'm placing my curve, right? We don't want to give so much allowance because we still need it to be tightened up on the chest area. So from the start of the neck point, I'm going to redraw my shoulder line and then use my curve this way to reconnect it. You can see that the allowance I gave where we did the tightening is just about half an inch. That's because I don't want the armhole to be going deep towards the chest center front. Okay, now the opening at the bust dart is now wider, right? But I'm still going to close it over so that I can draw my lines for the curve and also blend this part properly. So use your ruler and blend it up very well, as you can see me do in this video. Okay, from the side at the bust line, I'll go in by 1.5 inches. And of course, you can take your measurements from mid center front to the side of your bust fuller area to determine the size of cup that you want. But here I went in by 1.5 inches, which is just the same thing. Okay, so I'll use my curve the way you saw me do and connect the lines together. This is going to form my cup. Then from the up, I'm using my hand to blend it in a bit below the armhole area. Okay, I hope you can see this properly. At least watching it, you're going to understand what is happening. And then I'm also going to blend this other part into the half an inch that we marked and use my curve to curve out the parts that will have the curve as you see me do. So this is how we are going to be achieving our curve. If you cannot use your hand, you can always use your curve to blend it up properly. So you see what I have there, right? So the next thing we're going to do now is to get our scissors and cut everything out. But then remember to close up the bust that is open so you will not find it difficult to cut this things out. Okay. So I had to fast forward this part a bit since it's just the cutting part. Okay, so like I said, you need to close up this bust dart as you have seen me do so that it will be easy for you to cut everything out and still maintain the size of the cup that you have. Okay, so this video is getting longer, and so all I have to do now is to cut and then fix the cup together and match it up with the pattern again to see how it's going to come out. If you've watched this video to this extent, please give it a thumbs up, share it and follow for more. Thank you.